Today on the Hangout, unfortunately, we have to discuss the issues that riddle my main man, Kobe Bean Bryant. Also, Kid Canada, Andrew Wiggins, blowing up for 2 30-point games. Updates on all your Canucks. And lastly, your Toronto Raptors stop the bleeding in Philadelphia. What's next for the Raps? Can they find their way back on track? Hangout! Coming to you from the belly of the beast that is the Air Canada Centre. I am Akil Augustine, and this is Canada's home for talking hoops, gate 1.5 of the ACC, or you can just call it the Hangout. We have a very special panel on today's show, so I want to introduce you guys, of course, to my partner in crime on this show, Dan Gladman, back from off the road. Great contribution last night, producing the broadcast and that big win. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. It was a blast.
All right, and of course we have the newest member, one of the new members of the Raptors 905 broadcast team. Please welcome Meg McPeak. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me again.
All right, and one of the top basketball broadcasters in our country, of course, Nabil Karim. Thank you for coming out.
I've been asking for weeks. I'm like, Dwayne, dude, can I get on the show?
Oh.
You suspended me all last year. So
I heard it was the other way around. I heard Dwayne's been harassing you, and you're like, I'm big time now.
He's been big timing me. We'll talk about it later.
All right, let's get into it, of course. The Toronto Raptors drew the Philadelphia 76ers at what I would imagine is a convenient time to draw the Philadelphia 76ers when you've lost 3 straight wins. Did the Toronto Raptors stop the bleeding, or did they just run into the perfect opponent at the perfect time to do?
It's a team they got to beat, man. It's a team they got to beat, and I don't think they've stopped the bleeding completely because it's a win is a win.
Yep.
But that's a team that hasn't won a game yet. And they should have beat Orlando. They should have been more competitive against Miami. I know it's a long season. You're going to have games where you're going to lose by 20. You're not going to have a great night. But for me, I need to see more still because beating the 76ers doesn't tell me that you've stopped the bleeding and that you're back on track.
So you guys, did they address any of the issues that you saw in that Florida trip, especially in Miami? Did anything get resolved, or?
I would say no because their main issue still is their bench scoring. They got a little bit of production against Philly, but I mean, you're playing the 76ers. We went into that game expecting them to win, and Philly made it very close for a little too long for my liking. And then they finally turned it on in the second half when they should have really turned it on from the jump. And I think that's the one thing that they also struggle with, not only their bench, is also they don't start strong consistently where we saw in the 5-0 start.
Dan, you're in Philly.
The only reason we will even talk about the Philadelphia game today is because it's the next day. We will never again reference, that game in November against Philadelphia.
But it did end the losing streak.
Look, that was important. And the game against Oklahoma City that they won, we will talk about that for the rest of the season. That was a clutch win.
So should we be talking about Miami right now then?
Well, no, Miami was one of those games. Miami was desperate, so was Orlando. But the Philadelphia game, look, they had to win that game. There's no question about it. If they lost, then you have some real questions of confidence. But at this point, it's not fair to say that anything's been addressed. You have to get back into the stiffer competition. New Orleans probably isn't that, but the teams going out west to California, you're going to have Golden State. You're going to have the Clippers. Even the Kings are a tough matchup.
He's rambling on. Cut him off.
I almost think that OKC game, though, you're talking about being a game we'll talk about. We only will talk about it if they continue to do well and win. But if they start to get into a big funk here, then that's just a one-off.
Okay, now
you know what I mean? That wasn't a statement.
For now, it's a one-off.
Yeah.
Okay, so we also have to throw out DeMarre Carroll, of course, out with that plantar fasciitis. Don't know when he's going to come back, but something positive that did come out of all that. James Johnson's finally getting some minutes, someone that Raptors fans are eager to see play. What are your impressions? Are you impressed, depressed by what has he warranted this spot? Should he continue with the amount of minutes he's getting, the Bill?
I thought he was okay last game. I thought he did what he had to do. He's got to dumb it down. For me, he's too erratic. You don't know what you're going to get from him game to game, and I thought the last couple games he's been all right. I think he had 8 points the other day and 5 rebounds. That's good.
It's all the other smaller statistics with him.
Well, they're not worried about the offense that they're going to get from James Johnson, and he had a couple of nice passes too. There was that touchdown pass to Lowry in Philadelphia, but you're getting the defense from him, and that's what DeMarre Carroll is. That's what his job was, and now you're getting it from JJ. And Carmelo, I think, scored 25 or 27 points in the Knicks game, but JJ really did the job on him and showed exactly what they need from him. He had to work for those points.
Meg, you touched on it earlier, so I'll come back to you on this one. The bench. Who is to blame for the inability of this group to kind of like not only hold leads, but to chip away at leads too? Who is the sole perpetrator, the lack of scoring for this group?
I think when it comes down to it, it's a mixture of the coaching staff holding the bench to a higher standard and expecting them to keep that onus on the bench that you guys come in and we've seen you do it. We've seen you hold leads and help us either hold the lead or gain the lead.
But who's that guy?
You can't just rely on Corey
'Cause all
Joseph
five-
coming off the bench.
Well,
you've got to get more from Terrence Ross.
Patrick
He had
Patterson.
that-
Well, Terrence is hurt.
and Patrick
Patterson's the
Patterson.
guy.
Yeah, Terrence Ross is hurt right now, but when he's in the game, he needs to be way more consistent. You can't have a 20, 25-point game and then be non-existent in the next game. Patrick Patterson, I don't know where he's been for the last 3 or 4 games. He needs to come back out of the box and do what he does best. And I think he's another one similar to JJ, where when he gets on the floor, he's doing too much outside of what he wants to do.
Patterson is definitely in a shooting slump. We know that. However, he has never been the guy you look at and say, he's going to come off the bench and explode for 10, 15 points. That is exclusively, it is Terrence
They were
Ross's
expecting him to be a starter this year. How
what?
can you not be a consistent contributor when the expectation
He was
is
never
to be a
really going to be
starter?
the starter. Scola won it in training camp.
I thought they were going to give it to Patrick the whole
Well,
time.
but it's been proven in his career. He is more effective
Off the
throughout
bench.
his career
I'm
as a
pretty sure
bench
Dwayne
player.
But
wanted
that's
him
the
to
thing,
be
if
the
he's
guy.
proven it.
Terrence Ross should be and has
Absolutely.
been an explosive
100%.
bench scorer. Patterson, it's not fair to expect that from him.
But he's proven it,
Well,
and that's
also-
why he's got the
When has
notion that he's
Patterson
come
ever
off
scored 20 points in
I'm
a
not
game?
expecting him to get 20, but give me at least 10 and 12.
Without question,
He has
but
scored
that's
20.
not what that's not your main offensive
You're right.
weapon.
No, but he
Terrence
has to
Ross
contribute.
has to be the guy.
Terrence Ross.
Terrence Ross, and now Terrence Ross gets a chance to go against the second unit. Last year, he was against the starters, was not comfortable, was a 4th or 5th option. Now he should be the first option off the bench. He's got to take advantage. I don't care. There's too many excuses.
He's the best option against the worst
There have been too
unit
many
on that
games,
team.
20 minutes, 0 points. That can't happen ever. It's happened twice.
That's an atrocity. Now, let's take a step back. Let's go back to Toronto. Okay, a couple of nights ago, the New York Knickerbockers were in town, and the referees missed a call, a huge call, where here's the call. He traveled, and he was out of bounds, Carmelo Anthony, and the Toronto Raptors did not get any of the calls they needed down that stretch. So here's the thing. Should there be a coach's challenge at the end
Yes,
of the game?
they have it in the D-League. In the fourth quarter, final 2 minutes, you can challenge a call in the D-League.
So are we, as traditional NBA basketball fans, Karim, Dan, are you a fan? First off, Dan, let's go to you as a producer. That's like another commercial break for you.
That's a lot of confusion for you. That makes more work
in
for
terms,
you.
well, we like the work, and we like the challenges. And in terms of
He's lying. He's totally lying. He doesn't like the work.
busted by the TSN anchor over there.
But yes or no, though?
Look, in terms of broadcasting and producing it, that was a thrilling moment to have. And look, the referees missed the call. They admitted it, and that sucks. But we can't look at that and blame that for the loss. The Raptors
But
gave
that's
up
not the question. The question is,
150 points.
The question is, are you pro a coach's challenge at the end of the game?
Absolutely, yes.
And you're down with it in the bill.
Yeah.
I'll take it too, but at the end of the day too, and I'm going to take this back to hockey for a second because they brought in coach's challenges this year, and there's been a lot of complications to it too. So it's not like it's just cut
It's
and
not a
dry.
quick
Well,
fix.
the
It's
way
never
they-
a quick fix.
Dwayne, we're not
It'll be
inviting him
working
back.
for
He brought up hockey. He brought up hockey. We're done.
way
we don't like
We're going
to
to break. We're going to break. I quickly want to give a big shout out to the refs because I know they missed that call, but what they didn't do was penalize Dwayne Casey for going wild on the sidelines.
sucks up a lot.
Still more to come. We got to talk about the Kings, and they're going wild on each other. Hangouts!